Hello again, everyone. I guess we're going to go ahead and get started. I first want to just say thank you all for joining. Means a lot. My name is Ernest from the Soul of Nations Foundation. I help to run organizational programs and also a policy network initiatives. This call today is our first ever listening session with tribal leaders from the eastern region of the US, also known as Turtle Island. The purpose of this call is really to expand and build our partnerships with tribal leadership. And this starts with a conversation. We want to create room for safe dialogue to foster Native American, African American, and Afro-Indigenous unity and social protective measures. This could be manifested through joint sessions, listening sessions, policy reform strategies and implementation, and youth and young adult programming. For starters, we are a, I'm sorry, I don't know if everyone heard what I said, but I'll just restart. My name is Ernest from the Soul of Nations Foundation. We are a for-purpose grant-making organization based in New York and Washington, D.C., with international offices in Africa and a field office in Arizona. We exist to uplift Indigenous and Black culture through policy reform strategies and art making. We provide grants to young Indigenous and Black change advocates ages 18 to 35, and we've existed for 5 years now. The purpose of this call is to expand and build upon our partnerships with tribal leadership. And this starts with authentic conversations. And we're hoping to create room for safe dialogue to foster Native American, African American, and Afro-Indigenous unity and societal protective measures, which can be manifested through joint listening sessions, policy reform strategy and implementation, and youth and young adult programming. The reason for this call, tribal capacity building, is to, discuss and leave room for honest conversations around historical displacement and outcastness towards Indigenous peoples and within Indigenous communities. The internal ostracization is mainly targeted or has mainly been targeted towards Afro-Indigenous members and those of darker complexion, which in turn has caused a phenomenon of mass Indigenous erasure and generational sentiments of unconscious or conscious anti-Blackness across the eastern region of Turtle Island. But our goals for these listening sessions, these communal gatherings, whether virtual or in person, is to better understand measures in place by tribal leadership to help Indigenous and Black American unity, if there are any in place, establish methods to better strengthen these measures would be awesome. And then encouraging tribal leadership to establish Afro-Indigenous or African-American committees to better protect one of our most vulnerable and at-risk populations. Why are we doing this? Well, Afro-Indigenous erasure has been progressed and prolonged, and this in turn has caused stories to have been lost. Also, cultural sovereignty has been denied for many, and then health and wellness has also been, tampered with or postponed. And all of this can be, reprimanded through peace, love, trust, and we're really hopeful for the future, but we know that these conversations start with tribal empathy, tribal inclusion, understanding. So yeah, we're super excited. This is more so this is a formal call, but this is more so of a listening session. And I'm excited to hear, if there are any measures in place that do, promote Afro-Indigenous, inclusion within either tribal leadership or just tribal communities in general, and to see, where our organization can come into play and provide support. This is more so to get a feel before we start implementing programming. We are not an organization that likes to just place programs and hope people enjoy or hope people can benefit. We really want to make sure that we are targeting our level of impact directly within tribal leadership concerns and missions. A little bit about myself: I started my interest in tribal affairs working with the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs and the Bureau of Indian Affairs, BIA, in Washington, D.C. This organization was actually founded on the campus of Howard University through a student-led coalition that began doing professional development training actually on reservations in the Southwest. So through this work as an Afro-Indigenous descendant, our staff has experienced a lot of anti-Black experiences within tribal communities, and it was pretty surprising to our team. And we could only imagine like the lived experiences that others, within that community or surrounding these communities, these Indigenous communities, face on a daily basis. So this is our effort to, sort of rectify and understand how these, two communities that have had some of the longest encounters historically on this land can come together and think about or reimagine the future. The underlying theme of the majority of our programs and initiatives is Indigenous futurism. And how can we place that in the policy sphere? And how can we place that within conversations and programming? So I first want to just say thank you all for being here, and we're excited to learn more. Feel free to interrupt or raise your hand or interject at any moment so that we can, better hear your concerns and your voice, because your voice matters. Your leadership matters, and we want to just validate that. So yeah, I don't know if we can get started with just hearing some of the members on the call. If there are any current measures in place to help Indigenous and Black Americans, come together or unite in the policy sphere, or protective measures in place, or youth councils in place, please let me know. Let us know some of the wonderful work that you're doing. Now would be a great time to share if there are any, or if there are any ideas for the future, how you can imagine that manifesting or taking place. Would be awesome to learn about.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, how you doing? Thank you for sharing that. And actually, it sounds good. The program, and I'm actually new to these type of conversations. My name is Karif Allman. I'm the president of the Wanton Wantam Foundation, which is with the Eastern Pequot Tribal Nation, and located in North Stonington, Connecticut. I actually live between here and Connecticut, well, Baltimore area and Connecticut. I travel back and forth a couple times a month, participating in activities in the community, um, servicing our tribal nation and in the community of New London County. Um, I actually went to an HBCU. I graduated from Coppin State University, and some of my experience in, I guess, counseling, supporting families, running psychiatric rehabilitation programs, has given me some working experience and to be able to contribute to our tribal nations, I guess you can say, areas of improvement. It's been in the last couple of years, it's been great being able to, speak to individuals in the community up there to hear some of their needs, some of their concerns, And from the nonprofit organization perspective, we're currently doing quite a bit as far as um, food distribution, food rescue, again, servicing individuals during the COVID season. And as we're slowly coming out, being able to provide these services to those that need low income, Afro-Indigenous, anyone in the community. We've been trying to reach out to others to share what we're doing, and we always welcome volunteers and that type of thing. But I appreciate this forum. I just wanted to introduce myself, and I'm going to put myself back on mute. And thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. That was wonderful. And it's a pleasure to be introduced to your organization. We had another member on the call wanted to speak, so I'll allow them the chance to do so. Mr. James.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I want to say thank you for holding this platform. It is important for all of us, Indigenous and Afro, to come together and realize our heritage, and in the state, also just in the continent alone of where our heritage has stood. So I'm an Eastern Pequot Tribal Nation member. I'm also on the council, and I thought this would be a good platform for all Indigenous sister tribes and our Afro-American brothers, cousins, sisters, everything. Like, we all got to just come together as family. And the couple things that I wanted to say is just knowing from my heritage and ancestor, specifically just dealing with the whole Pequot ancestral history. It's just really just wanting to just come together and just see how we can all just sit down and have conversations on how we could just reunite and come as one. I'm not sure who else was actually on the platform, but it's just really just getting in touch with our heritage and all of our blood relatives. So I just want to say once again, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. James. It was awesome hearing your sentiments, and everything you said was extremely valid and true. And conversations like this are the start to change and understanding. I hope to not only talk about visions for the future, but also current setbacks, so that we can reimagine a brighter future. Kiana Scruggs is also wanting to talk, so I'll allow her the chance to speak.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, can.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time today. My name is Kiana Scruggs. I am a tribal counselor also with Eastern Pequot Tribal Nation. Karif and Jameis are my cousins, first cousins actually. We are so excited to be a part of this call. I think it's important work that you're doing. Just remembering that it's our Indigenous and our Afro-American culture has always been one for us specifically. We are an Afro-Indigenous tribe. We don't know either identity separately because we always grew up with both of them. And so we were so excited to come upon your organization and to see how we could continue these type of important conversations. One of the things I was interested in, I wasn't able to see is, I know you're doing it in every region. And so I was excited to see and just ask the question about what the experience has been with, because we are a state recognized tribe, still fighting for our federal recognition. And I just was curious if you're finding the participation from both state and federally recognized tribes, and if you're seeing that, and if anyone's having those discussions. But I also just wanted to introduce myself and say thank you for these important conversations. I'm excited to be a part of this group, because that's always been, we've always had the dual identity. And it's a blessing that, we're coming together as communities to see, because we're stronger together. So I thank you for that.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, we are stronger together. That's the purpose of these introductory calls. So this is the first one we've done in all of the regions we're planning. I think we have about 7 regional calls and then 1 national call at the end of this year. But your point in like state recognition and federal recognition is definitely a point of contingency that we would love to delve into. As an organization, we understand that tribal communities have no boundaries as it relates to state and federal recognition, but we are based in New York and DC, and of course you can imagine we've faced setbacks and questions about our politics as an organization as it relates to supporting state and federally recognized tribes. Also, some of our participants have, undergone a lot of harsh, I'd say, trauma, just as it relates to their own cultural identity and it being stripped away from them during like programming processes. And that typically happens to a lot of, Afro-Indigenous or natives with darker skin complexion. So thank you for bringing that point up. I'd be interested to know like your experiences in battling with, just like your current setbacks with state recognition and just the validity in the Indigenous sphere nationwide or just even regional. That would also be, a good point to discuss. I don't know if I think we have another hand raised. If there's a point that wanted to be made, I'll just unmute. Okay, I don't think that was an accident. But yeah, it would be great to, talk about current setbacks so that we can better understand needs. And of course, this call is going to be recorded, and the majority of our callers are state recognized tribes. We do have some federal recognized tribes that would like to be involved in, the listening discussion part. But now would be a great time to, express some of those concerns or just lived experiences. Um, we understand that the federal recognition process has been, it's a colonial structure that is not made to necessarily benefit those who identify as Afro-Indigenous. So now is a great time to, talk about this on a more policy or social economic plane, and hopefully this will be the first of many discussions. I know this one is virtual, but we also invite in-person gatherings as well, or just listening sessions. And we would love to share current updates about the tribes on this call, whether it be like policy that is under works or policy manifestos that are, being written. This is kind of the mission of our reaching out, our attempt to gather those who have a heart for the next generation of Indigenous and Afro-Indigenous youth coming up, so that they can be affirmed in their indigeneity and their Afro-Indigeneity. Yep. So I don't know if anyone wanted to discuss maybe some of the points of contingency, some of their most pressing needs. We talked about a little bit about food justice, and that is super important. But if there are any other on the more social level, that would also be really helpful to know about as well.
Yeah, hello. This is Karif Allman again. I just was curious. Did I miss an introduction of who all was on the line, because I'm not I don't know. This is my first time participating in this, so I just wanted to know who else was participating.
Right. So we allowed people who wanted to introduce themselves. We have a lot of names on the call, but I believe that those who are interested raised their hand. If anyone else would like to introduce themselves, feel free to do so. But I guess now we can maybe transition to talking about some of the social needs or some of the social contingencies that are faced in this region specifically. Again, we are planning to send, memos from this gathering to our Eastern Region membership, which is about 34 different groups, and it'll be wonderful to make sure everyone on this call, make sure your voices are heard. So feel free to share or speak whenever.
Yeah, just I guess as you you shared early on some of the challenges or some of the concerns or some of the areas that can be improved. Just in my time or conversation and experience in dealing in both the African American and Indigenous families. To me, I think one of the challenges could be looked at from, like the genealogy perspective. It just based off of what I've seen, at times, I think individuals need to know more of how they're tied into certain cultures. Um, the genealogy piece is big. I actually participated in actually my first genealogy reading of the Pequot tribes as a whole. And a lot of the names, a lot of the relations and things like that are very intriguing from the perspective of in the Northeast, the tribal nations are all related. Talking from Massachusetts all the way down to Long Island and wherever else. It's uh, a lot of information based off of the genealogy that can help shed some light on things, some of the things that have happened through history. So that I think having a platform for that, I think with our nonprofit organization, we're trying to have at least two prongs. One prong is around the culture and genealogy. Then the other branch is based off of food insecurities, food deserts, the food rescue, food distribution, in order to assure that just not tribal nations or Indigenous individuals, but the community as a whole are receiving certain things. So that's just one of the things that I've seen, or my 2 cents to the subject.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and tying in the cultural genealogy and the food insecurity, those are really interconnected. So thank you for bringing that part up. I think Kiana Scruggs wanted to chime in.
Yes, I did want to chime in on that. I think some of the shared needs that we see in both communities, both our African American and Indigenous communities are, and specific though with, you know, it's, I think as Afro-Indigenous people, it's very hard as a state recognized tribe when our needs are, you know, they match what the rest of the community who isn't Indigenous has, you know, the need for healthcare, the need for educational assistance, the need for social services, mental health services. Those needs intersect, all, of course. And what it can be difficult, I think, especially for our Afro-Indigenous people, is to know, especially if you're a part of a state recognized tribe, is that, you know, there is some assistance that comes when you're federally recognized that you don't have access to when you're state recognized. And so those main areas, you know, that healthcare, you know, that assistance with education, so that you can, you know, we're trying to set up for our 7 generations that are yet unborn. And so trying to create those legacies and, you know, trying to better yourself and move forward in those areas can be very difficult. And that's a need in general as well for our African American communities. So I think as an Afro-Indigenous person, I would say that education, healthcare, the need for social services, I include mental health under that healthcare umbrella, housing, those are and the food insecurity. And highlighted.
I think you're breaking up a little bit.
Absolutely.
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me now? I apologize. I just hit a dead zone. I'm traveling.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. So just to recap, what I was saying was that I think COVID has exacerbated some of the needs in, you know, healthcare, housing, education, mental health under that healthcare, food insecurity. You know, those are needs that intersect in both Afro and Indigenous communities. And so as a state recognized tribe, not having access to some things that we would have access to, I think is one of the things that, you know, it can be very difficult, because when someone hears, or then, you know, even some of our members, you know, when they're applying for different things, or they're trying to go to school, you know, and apply for loans and doing a FAFSA, and they ask, are you a member of an Indian tribe, you know, or a Native American tribe? Yes, I am a member, right? But they don't realize, you know, and it's hard to explain that just because I'm a member of a Native American tribe, if it's not a federally recognized tribe, you don't have access to, you know, some of those things that you would if you were part of a federally recognized tribe. And so that is one of the huge inequities I see that, you know, we should discuss.
Right, and thank you so much for, you know, sharing all of this packed, you know, but succinct, you know, snapshot of the current issues of state recognition. And it's so helpful to be able to, you know, share these issues honestly and openly, you know, in this manner, because, you know, not a lot of people either recognize that these are issues, or, you know, they know that these are issues, but don't necessarily see who they are, who, you know, how their idleness is impacting, you know, thousands of people. So I, once again, I just want to say thank you. And you mentioned that, you know, federally recognized tribes and also African American communities can be of assistance in this process to aid not only your community, but others. I'm curious to know if anyone on the call has had conversations with federally recognized tribes or African American communities to kind of rally up or garner support for some of these pressing concerns, and what has been your experience in doing so. I guess maybe we can start with like other federally recognized tribes in your neighboring region, about how they perceive, you know, non federally recognized tribal members. If you would like to share, that would be awesome as well. And our reason for, you know, bringing up this point is because we do know that there can be disconnects between federal and state status tribes, and the majority or a large part of the state recognized tribes do identify with both African American and Indigenous ancestry. And so in part, it's important to bring up how these relationships have been presented, whether good or bad. And so this authentic form of conversation does need to happen in order to, further the understanding for those who have turned a blind eye to our Indigenous and Afro brethren and sisters in need. So feel free to speak your mind.
Hello, hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
All right. Well, I'm just I don't know how it could really touch the topic of how federally recognized tribes can help. But it just goes back to as far as opening up the conversations. So it's like for instance, like my cousin Karif was saying with genealogy, and Kiana elaborated on the mental health and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like even with our heritage, our great grandmother, grandmother Harris, Catherine Harris, Sebastian. She was in the newspapers and all of that kind of stuff, representing for the Afro-Indigenous community. So just knowing that she was full Pequot, and it's kind of like we're just really trying to figure out on how we can align with the other tribes, whether you're state or federally recognized. Because I know up here in the Northeast, most of these tribes, they're all, Pequot bloodline. So, there's two up here that's federally recognized, and we're all cousins. So it's just really trying to see with this outlet if we can all just start getting back as far as even reuniting as Pequots. I'm not sure who else is other tribes that are on this call, but it's like we're all related. I know up here in the Northeast, and however, from let's just go back to pre-colonial, when the actual Pequot War happened. That also started off the slave trades. So we all got shipped around, and hopefully we could all just reach out to each other and just seeing how we could just reunite.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I just wanted to add on to that. So here in Connecticut specifically, we have I believe we have 5 tribes here in Connecticut, and we have 2 federally recognized tribes, the Mohegans and the Mashantucket Pequot tribe, and then we have 3 state recognized tribes, and that's the Eastern Pequots, the Scatagoats, and Golden Hill Pagusets. And so I do think at times that we have dialogues. I do know that there are dialogues trying to happen among the 5 tribes, because like we said, we are stronger together. But I am curious how other states might do it, or who's had success, right? Because that's, I think, what can be useful, you know, learning from the success of others and how to build on that. You know, what other, you know, what's useful? You know, are there councils of tribes? Are there groups of tribes? Because I know, like, it might be, you know, there might be different dialogues happening depending on the tribe and who's having, but how can we come together as a group and have a more robust discussion like we're having today? I'm curious to see if anyone's had success with that. Who else is on the call?
Right. Thank you so much, Kiana and Jameis. The point you made up about just the heritage unity and, you know, working together and helping others to realize that we are stronger together is super important. So this is a more regional specific call with the Eastern region, but we are planning to do additional calls with maybe members who have set or established a framework that could work across all regions. And that will happen on May 9th. Actually, that will happen on July 11th, where we'll be speaking with some Oklahoma tribes that do have sort of a freedmen committee or a network that has been working with them both in the legal sphere, but then also just socially with like social networking and benefits for community members. So we would invite everyone on this call to continue. You're more than welcome to join our other listening sessions. We have one with the Southeastern region on May 9th, and then also with the Southern region on July 11th. And these will be more regionally specific, but also great networking opportunity for introductions and just understanding frameworks. We're curious to know if anyone on this call within the Eastern region has established or is in the works of establishing frameworks that could work for either your community or Afro-Indigenous communities within the region, or if if this hasn't been established yet, what you envision or how you envision that working, either regionally, tribally, specific to a certain tribe, or across the nation. I'm not sure. We understand that all tribes are different or unique, especially when it comes to regions. So that's why we divided these up into, you know, more regionally specific listening sessions. But if you do have any type of concepts or frameworks that are either in underworks or vision for the future, it would be great to, you know, to see if if there could be maybe overlap or systems that are already in place for others. As an organization, a large portion of our, you know, manifesto or vision for the future is to encourage tribal leadership to establish committees that have a membership of, you know, both Afro-Indigenous and Afro-Indigenous, Indigenous African American members, to establish these, you know, exchanges that could be of most benefit to those who are really at risk, or the most at-risk populations of these groups. So I'm curious to know if that's even been a thought, or ways that, you know, you could be that these coalitions could be supported by outside organizations, policy officials, or just within the community itself. If this has even been a thought or you know, a need, feel free to speak up or to let us know. And again, I know we've had a lot of representation from the Eastern Pequot. We thank you so much for, speaking up and standing up in this way. And I don't want to pressure you all to like be the only one speaking, but we do appreciate you voicing your concerns. And this is where it starts. It's not, it can be uncomfortable, but I really appreciate the courage and tenacity that you've shown today. And we're hoping that this will be the first of many calls. And sometimes it works collectively, sometimes it works individually, and we are open to having individual joint sessions as well. Really just figuring out how we can be of assistance. But this platform, of course, will go out to our membership. We have about 12,000 members on our mailing list, and we look forward to sharing things that the most pressing needs from this call, the most pressing points. And I guess our overall goal is to encourage tribal leadership to establish committees with representation that fully represents their tribal tribal constituency. And hopefully with that exchange, with this coalition building initiative, we can start to see change on the policy and social sphere. And of course, this work is not easy by any means. This is probably many tribes has been hundreds and thousands of years of seeking validation from those who do hold the reins. And but this is a small strong endeavor to apply pressure, and that starts with authentic community voices speaking up, in which all of you are, some of you on this call have done today, and we're really appreciative. So I mean, where we are as an organization, where we're going forward with some of the points from this call, it's just drafting a memo, sharing the memo along with some of the recordings or some of the comments from this call to the Eastern Region membership, and we'll be looking forward to sharing with Eastern Region officials if there is another day that would work better for everyone to reconvene. We would be happy to do so, hopefully sooner than later. And we would love to invite everyone who is joining us today to attend our next session of gathering tribal leaders from the Southeastern region. This will include states from Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Some of these states or some of these tribal communities within the states do have frameworks for Afro-Indigenous members. Some have learned through trial and error, of course, but hearing or having a time for them to hear your concerns and things that you're fighting for within your region would also be beneficial, I think, on a more national scale. So as stated, like our agenda, our next call we'll be having with Southeastern region, and then we can just make it an Eastern region call collectively, will be on Monday, May 9th. And yeah, so I mean, the point of these discussions is really just to be able to listen to the concerns and then devise collective strategies for reform, for change. So I don't want you to leave this thinking that you spoke with to a brick wall. Everyone's concerns are, and voices matter. And I just want to say thank you again for speaking up, or for even attending if you didn't speak. Your attendance matters, your voice matters, and being present matters. So I just want to say thanks again, special thanks again. So we're going through these calls all the way until we reach California and Nevada in November, and we're hoping to have a collective national call by the end of this year. But in between them, we are a small team of about 10 members, and we have 2 dedicated staff for this specific initiative. So finding ways that we can uplift the voices of members on this call through written memorandum, advocating to policy officials, or just sharing the news updates about what you all are up to, what you all are fighting for, what you all would like to see change within your community. We're all for that, and specifically for those who identify as freedmen descendants, Afro-Indigenous members, Black communities who have intermingled or identify with indigeneity of some sort. This is the organizational shift that we are looking to focus on. So yes, feel free to even stop by our office. We're based in New York, or we can venture out to you at whatever is easiest to continue discussions. And thank you so much for all of the, tribal leaders and change advocates, NGOs that have joined today. We know sometimes it's a little bit, it's hard to, or intimidating to speak, but all of those that did were super, super appreciative. I don't know if we, before we leave, I do want to know if there are any visions for the future for, coalition building with membership, if there are any like frameworks, underworks that we can share or bolster in any aspect. We do have a newsletter that does reach a large majority of Indigenous populations, and I'm sure that they would love to hear about what's going on, because when it comes to certain frameworks that have worked for other Afro-Indigenous or Indigenous freedom bands, it's important to understand how it worked for them, and why it was received in some regions and why it's not. I think within the Eastern span, it's very, very difficult. It's been very, very difficult for those who identify with Afro-Indigeneity, but we are hopeful that these exchanges will make an impact, and we are, making sure that we're providing a safe space so that you all can speak. Sometimes people don't realize that like those who have been suppressed and silenced have a lot to say. And I think within the Eastern span, this is a safe space to talk. And as we can continue the discussions all the way out to the West, we want to make sure that you all are, included and feel like, your voice matters, because it does. Well, we don't necessarily see the difference between state and recognized, but outside of, the support that comes with it. We want to make sure that everyone is supported and their voices are heard. So I believe that, those on this call, if you would mind, looking at our agenda and schedule and see if you would be able or willing to join. I think that that would also be very beneficial as well. We're hoping to compile a report of all memos that we transcribe from our calls, and that report will be passing on to our board, our advisory board council, who is primarily Indigenous led in the policy sphere, and or native led law firms that do fight or advocate for the rights of Afro-Indigenous members, Indigenous members, freedmen as well. So we're hoping to gain some good traction or just written documentation that states like these members met today and they are needing, or they have pressing needs in these following sectors. And hopefully we'll be able to realize overlapping differences that could lead to immediate or long-term improvement. So yeah, I know I've been pretty long-winded today, but I just want to say thank you again for taking the time to join. Again, wanted to just stress the importance of establishing or applying pressure to tribal leadership to establish Afro-Indigenous, African-American committees that will help to better protect those who are most at risk. Representation matters. And I believe this. I'm sure everyone on this call to an extent believes this as well. So I just want to say thank you. If there are any other statements or any measures in place that we should know about, we can better support, we would be happy to do so. Just feel free to share. I'll go on mute for a bit. All right. Well, I feel like everyone has done a great job of listening and speaking, and this has been wonderful. And this is, of course, a great room for an open dialogue. I would encourage any tribal leaders or members that would like to have a more tribally specific call to email me. My email is ernest@soulofnations.org. I think I missed the S. I'll retype it. And we can have these discussions that will be more tailored to a specific tribal group, and also liaise with others who other communities, other tribal communities that we'll be speaking with in the coming months. That would be a direct link of connection, or just overall connection and support. If that would be of interest, feel free to email me out. I would love to speak with you individually, as well as collectively, whatever works best. And yeah, we'll continue to further this discussion. And I just want to say special thank you to all of the Eastern Pequot members and the foundations on the call that did, speak about their concerns and their lived experiences. And nothing has gone unheard. Everyone's input is super valid and really well appreciated. And we look forward to having more of these discussions and finding out ways to support and lift your amplify voices as well. We just want to make sure that everyone is staying safe and healthy and is encouraged. This is a super important first step in your attendance. And engagement and involvement is really helping, will really help in the long run. So I know it's a continued fight, it's a continued fight, but this is a safe space. This is a safe, our organization, we aim to be a safe space for those who are most unheard. So again, I just want to say thank you again for everyone. I don't know if there's any points that haven't been brought up that you would like to talk about. But if not, feel free to reach out via email, or you can call us as well. We're here for you, and we're making ourselves available in this way. We know that these initiatives are not, they don't happen too often, and there isn't as much support for these types of conversations and talks. Our organization, we don't have like a fiscal sponsor to administer these calls, so we're doing this out of the kindness and empathy that we feel for those who aren't really respected in our from our point of view. And we understand that there is frustration, but we do know that there are mechanisms for change that have worked for others and not, and there are some that have worked for others and not, some of the most vulnerable populations. So, yep, this is our first endeavor our first call in this long endeavor. And I just want to express how thankful I am to have you all, voice your concerns, listen, exchange, and we are hopeful to, continue this long-term in the future. But for more immediate actions that we plan to do after this call, it's just draft a memorandum. We'll share, voices that spoke, and we invite you to join some of our more collective calls with those outside of the Northeastern region. So Southeastern will be our next call next month, and then we'll do our Southern. And we have a plan to just continue down the line of regions on Turtle Island. But yep, this is the first step, and I just want to I just can't thank you enough for voicing your concern. I'll go on mute for about 1 minute if there's anyone that would like to have some closing remarks or last remarks. But if not, I just want to say thank you all again for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you all as well. Feel free to email us, and we will also send the memorandum to each of you as well, just as an encouragement to have more interpersonal or intertribal conversations too. And for those who are listening, thank you so much for just attending. We hope to have more conversation building in our future calls. But this might happen through text, if not spoken. But thank you, everyone. Take care.